In the heart of the bustling galactic headquarters, General Zarnak stood proudly on the observation deck. He was a towering figure, his scales shimmering in shades of deep blue and purple. Known throughout the galaxy for his strength and tactical genius, Zarnak had little patience for what he considered weaknesses, especially from other species. Today, he was about to encounter something he had never expected: a human soldier. The alien army had recently agreed to a military exchange program, and the human soldier, Private Jack Turner, was the first to arrive. Jack was a young man, small and lean compared to the towering aliens around him. His uniform, although clean and well-kept, seemed out of place among the advanced alien technology and armored soldiers. General Zarnak watched as Jack was escorted into the main hall. His eyes narrowed with disdain. The general was used to seeing beings of great power and skill, and this human did not fit that image. "So this is the human soldier?" Zarnak sneered, his voice echoing through the hall. "A mere child in comparison to my forces." The assembled alien soldiers looked on with curiosity, their own opinions forming. Jack, though clearly uncomfortable, stood tall. He had been trained for this moment, but the mocking eyes and the sneering face of the general made it clear that he was not welcome. Zarnak approached Jack with a confident stride, his every movement exuding arrogance. "I've heard stories of human bravery, but I see nothing more than a weakling before me. Tell me, how do you intend to prove your worth?" The general's tone was both mocking and derisive. Jack took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. "I'm here to do my job and show that humans can contribute just as much as any other species," he replied. His voice was steady, though his hands were clenched into fists by his sides. The general's laughter was loud and harsh. "Contribute? With that fragile body and your limited strength? You're nothing but a joke to my soldiers." He gestured grandly to his elite troops, who chuckled and whispered among themselves. The general enjoyed making an example of Jack, turning the human into a symbol of what he considered human frailty. Determined not to let the general's taunts get to him, Jack squared his shoulders. He knew that the real test would be the challenges Zarnak was likely to set. It was common for generals to test the worth of newcomers, and Zarnak's tests were known to be especially grueling. In the coming days, General Zarnak set up a series of challenges for Jack. The first was a strength test, where Jack had to lift weights that would have been impossible for any human. Zarnak watched with a sneer as Jack struggled, but to everyone's surprise, he managed to lift more than expected. Still, the general dismissed this as luck. Next was an agility test, where Jack had to navigate a complex obstacle course filled with traps and hazards. Despite the danger, Jack moved with surprising speed and precision, completing the course faster than most alien soldiers. The general's face darkened with frustration, but he remained defiant. The final challenge was a combat simulation. Jack faced off against a highly trained alien warrior in a virtual arena. The simulation was intense, but Jack fought with skill and determination, matching the alien's moves and countering effectively. The general was visibly annoyed, unable to accept that the human could hold his own in combat. After each challenge, Zarnak's mockery continued. He questioned Jack's performance and insisted that his achievements were not a sign of true strength. "It's just a fluke," he would say. "No human could ever truly measure up to my soldiers." Despite the general's constant ridicule, Jack remained calm and focused. He knew that proving himself would take more than just one set of challenges. He had to endure the mockery and show that humans were more than just the sum of their physical traits. As the days went by, Jack's resilience and skill began to make an impact. The alien soldiers, who initially laughed at him, started to view him with a mix of curiosity and respect. The general, however, remained steadfast in his belief that the human was a mere curiosity, nothing more. In the end, Jack's presence alone was starting to make waves, and the general's mockery, while loud and persistent, was beginning to lose its edge. The stage was set for a dramatic turn, and General Zarnak's rigid beliefs were about to be challenged in ways he could never have imagined. This introduction sets the stage for Jack's journey and the eventual clash between his true capabilities and the general's preconceived notions. The tension between the characters builds as the story progresses, paving the way for a dramatic and engaging narrative. General Zarnak's disdain for the human soldier, Private Jack Turner, had reached new heights. The general was determined to prove that the human was weak and unworthy of respect. He had set up a series of grueling challenges designed to push Jack to his limits and beyond. Each test was a chance for the general to humiliate the human further and reinforce his belief in human inferiority. The first challenge was a test of strength. In the vast training arena, Zarnak had set up a series of massive weights. These weights were far beyond what any human could lift, or so the general thought. Jack, though clearly nervous, stepped up to the task. The general watched with a smirk as Jack struggled with the first set of weights. Sweat poured down Jack's face and his muscles strained with the effort. The general's laughter filled the arena. "Look at this! A human trying to lift weights that even my weakest soldiers can handle with ease. How pathetic!" His laughter echoed, and the alien soldiers joined in, their voices a chorus of mockery. Despite the derision, Jack pressed on. With a final burst of energy, he managed to lift the weights for a brief moment before setting them down. It was a feat that surprised everyone, but the general dismissed it as a mere fluke. "Let's move on to something more challenging," Zarnak declared, his tone dripping with contempt. The next challenge was an agility test. Zarnak had constructed an obstacle course that was designed to be almost impossible for a human to complete. It was filled with sharp turns, high walls, and moving barriers. The general's soldiers watched with anticipation, eager to see Jack fail. Jack took a deep breath and began the course. His movements were swift and calculated, each step and jump precise. He navigated through the obstacles with surprising grace, making it through the course faster than many of Zarnak's own soldiers. The general's face darkened with irritation. He had expected Jack to stumble and falter, but the human was proving to be more capable than anticipated. Zarnak's anger grew as the challenge continued. "This is impossible!" he shouted, though he tried to hide his frustration. "How can this weak human be doing so well?" The general refused to accept that Jack's performance might indicate genuine skill. The final challenge was a combat simulation, and this one was the most intense. Jack would face off against one of Zarnak's elite soldiers in a simulated battle. The general hoped that this test would finally break the human. The simulation was set in a high-tech arena with holographic weapons and obstacles designed to push Jack to his limits. As the simulation began, Jack's opponent, a skilled alien warrior, charged at him with fierce aggression. Jack ducked and dodged, using his agility and quick reflexes to avoid the warrior's attacks. He countered with precise strikes and strategic maneuvers, surprising everyone with his combat prowess. The general watched with clenched fists, his eyes narrowed in disbelief. The alien warrior was having a hard time landing a hit, and Jack's skill was becoming evident. The simulation continued, and Jack's ability to anticipate and counter his opponent's moves impressed even the alien soldiers who had doubted him. When the simulation ended, Jack had not only survived, but had outperformed the general's elite soldier. The arena fell silent, and the alien soldiers looked at Jack with newfound respect. The general's face was a mix of anger and disbelief. He had hoped to humiliate Jack, but instead the human had shown remarkable resilience and skill. "Impossible!" Zarnak roared, his anger barely contained. "This human cannot be better than my soldiers. It must be some trick." His frustration was palpable, and he struggled to come to terms with the fact that Jack had exceeded his expectations. Despite the general's continued mockery, the atmosphere in the arena had shifted. The alien soldiers were starting to see Jack in a different light, their respect growing for the human who had defied their general's expectations. Jack, on the other hand, remained focused and determined, knowing that the real battle was yet to come. The challenges had not only tested Jack's physical abilities, but had also begun to challenge the general's deep-seated beliefs about humanity. As the story progressed, the tension between Zarnak and Jack continued to build, setting the stage for a dramatic showdown that would ultimately reveal the true strength of the human soldier. General Zarnak's anger boiled over as he watched Private Jack Turner's surprising performance in the earlier challenges. Despite the human's impressive feats, Zarnak remained stubborn in his belief that Jack was nothing more than a fluke. To finally settle the matter, Zarnak decided to stage a major combat simulation, a final test that would push Jack to his absolute limits. The combat simulation was set up in a state-of-the-art arena designed to mimic a chaotic battlefield. It was equipped with advanced holographic technology, creating an environment filled with enemies, traps, and obstacles. Zarnak's most elite soldier, an alien known for his incredible combat skills, was chosen as Jack's opponent. This was to be the ultimate test. As the simulation began, Jack was equipped with standard combat gear, while his opponent wore advanced armor and wielded powerful weapons. The arena's lights dimmed, and the holographic scenery shifted to a rugged terrain with crumbling buildings and hidden dangers. The alien warrior charged at Jack with fierce determination, aiming to end the fight quickly. Jack took a deep breath, focusing on the task ahead. His previous challenges had given him some insight into the alien's combat styles, and he used this knowledge to his advantage. He moved with a combination of agility and strategy, dodging the warrior's powerful attacks and looking for openings to strike back. The alien warrior was a whirlwind of motion, but Jack's reflexes and quick thinking allowed him to stay one step ahead. He ducked under swings and leaped over blasts, showing a remarkable ability to adapt to the changing conditions of the simulation. With each passing moment, it became clear that Jack was not just surviving, but also fighting back with skill and precision. Zarnak's frustration grew as he watched the battle unfold. His elite soldier was struggling to land a decisive blow, and Jack's resilience was beginning to impress even the general's most skeptical officers. "How is this possible?" Zarnak muttered, his eyes glued to the simulation. "This human is supposed to be weak!" As the fight continued, Jack started to take control. He used the environment to his advantage, hiding behind debris and using obstacles to block the alien's attacks. He also displayed an impressive tactical mind, predicting the warrior's moves and countering them effectively. The general's face grew darker with each passing second, unable to comprehend how Jack was holding his own. The turning point in the simulation came when Jack managed to disarm the alien warrior. With a swift, calculated move, Jack knocked the weapon from his opponent's hand and used the momentary advantage to land a series of precise strikes. The alien warrior, now on the defensive, struggled to keep up with Jack's relentless assault. The simulation ended with Jack standing victorious, his breathing heavy but his stance proud. The arena's lights returned to normal, and the holographic environment faded away. The alien soldiers watching the fight were in awe, their previous skepticism replaced with respect. Even the general was momentarily speechless, his usual arrogance subdued by the undeniable display of skill. Zarnak tried to hide his shock behind a veneer of anger. "This must be some sort of trick," he roared, though his voice lacked conviction. "No human could truly be this skilled." He glared at Jack, searching for any excuse to dismiss the human's performance. Despite the general's attempts to discredit him, Jack remained calm and focused. He had proven himself in the combat simulation, showing that his abilities went far beyond what Zarnak had originally assumed. The respect Jack had earned from the alien soldiers was palpable, and the atmosphere in the arena had shifted dramatically. The general's confidence was shaken, and he began to question his own beliefs about humans. Jack's hidden potential had been revealed, and it was clear that he was a formidable opponent. The stage was now set for an even more intense confrontation between Zarnak and Jack, as the general's rigid views about humanity were increasingly challenged. This part of the story highlights Jack's growth and skill, showcasing his hidden potential in a high-stakes combat scenario. It also sets up the next phase of the narrative, where the conflict between Jack and Zarnak will reach new heights, further exploring the themes of prejudice and respect. General Zarnak's frustration reached a boiling point after Private Jack Turner's astonishing performance in the combat simulation. The general had long prided himself on his ability to judge the strength of other species, but Jack's impressive skills were beginning to shatter his confidence. Determined to prove once and for all that the human was not a serious threat, Zarnak decided on a final decisive test, a one-on-one duel. The duel was set to take place in the main arena, a grand space designed for high-stakes battles. The arena was equipped with advanced holographic projectors that could create any environment imaginable. For this duel, the setting was a simulated battlefield filled with obstacles, trenches, and hidden dangers, perfect for showcasing combat skills. As the duel approached, Zarnak's anger was palpable. He had handpicked his most formidable combatant, an elite warrior named Zarnak, to face Jack. Zarnak was known for his strength and tactical prowess, and the general was confident that he would finally prove the superiority of his own species. Jack, on the other hand, prepared for the duel with a mix of determination and nervousness. He knew this would be the ultimate test of his abilities. When the duel began, the arena's lights dimmed, and the holographic environment shifted to a war-torn landscape. Zarnak entered the arena, his powerful frame gleaming with advanced armor and weapons. Jack, dressed in his standard combat gear, faced his opponent with a calm and focused expression. Zarnak watched from a raised platform, his eyes narrowed with intense scrutiny. The duel started with Zarnak charging at Jack with overwhelming force. The alien warrior swung his weapon with incredible speed, aiming to end the fight quickly. Jack, however, dodged and weaved, his movements precise and controlled. As the battle unfolded, it became clear that Jack was not only defending himself, but also actively countering Zarnak's attacks. He used the terrain to his advantage, hiding behind obstacles and launching surprise counterattacks. Zarnak's strength and aggression were impressive, but Jack's agility and tactical thinking allowed him to keep the alien warrior at bay. The general's anger grew with each passing minute. "This can't be happening!" Zarnak shouted, his voice filled with disbelief. "Zarnak is one of my best soldiers! How is this human still standing?" Despite the general's frustration, Jack continued to fight with skill and determination. He managed to disarm Zarnak by exploiting a small opening in the alien's armor, an achievement that stunned everyone watching. The general's confidence began to waver as he realized that Jack was not just a lucky soldier, but a genuinely skilled fighter. The turning point of the duel came when Jack used a combination of agility and strategy to outmaneuver Zarnak. He delivered a series of precise strikes that forced the alien warrior to retreat. The audience, which had been silent with shock, began to murmur in awe. It was clear that Jack was gaining the upper hand. As the duel neared its climax, Zarnak, now exhausted and on the defensive, struggled to keep up with Jack's relentless assault. Jack's focus and endurance were evident as he continued to press his advantage. Finally, with one last decisive move, Jack knocked Zarnak to the ground and stood over him, victorious. The arena fell silent. General Zarnak, his face a mix of disbelief and anger, stared at the scene before him. Jack had not only defeated Zarnak, but had done so with a display of exceptional skill and strategy. The general's rigid beliefs about human weakness were being forcefully challenged. Unable to contain his frustration any longer, Zarnak roared, "This can't be real! How could a human be this strong? There must be some trick." His voice echoed through the arena, but his anger was overshadowed by the growing respect and astonishment among the alien soldiers. Jack, standing tall and breathing heavily, looked at the general with a mixture of pride and defiance. He had proven himself in the most challenging of circumstances, and his victory was a testament to the strength and resilience of humanity. The general's revelation was dawning upon him. Jack was not the weakling he had once thought. The human soldier's hidden potential had been unveiled, and Zarnak's perception of humanity was beginning to shift. The stage was now set for a dramatic reckoning as the general came to terms with the fact that his views might need to change. This part of the story highlights the climax of Jack's journey and the turning point in his conflict with General Zarnak. It underscores the theme of overcoming prejudice and the importance of recognizing the true potential within others. The arena was filled with a tense silence as Private Jack Turner stood victorious over the defeated Zarnak. The General Zarnak was seething with rage, his face twisted in disbelief. The alien soldiers, who had once mocked Jack, now watched in awe. The atmosphere had shifted dramatically, and the general's once absolute confidence was starting to crumble. Jack, though exhausted, stood tall, his chest heaving with each breath. His combat gear was scuffed and dirtied, but his expression was one of quiet pride. He had proven himself in the ultimate test, and the respect he had earned was palpable. The alien soldiers, who had earlier scoffed at the human, now looked at Jack with newfound admiration. General Zarnak's frustration was evident as he paced back and forth on his platform. He had underestimated Jack, and the human's performance had shattered his preconceived notions about humanity. The general's anger was a mix of humiliation and disbelief, and he struggled to reconcile this with his rigid beliefs. One of Zarnak's senior officers, an alien named Vortak, approached the general cautiously. "Sir, it is clear that Private Jack Turner is not just an ordinary human. His skills and determination are beyond what we expected." Vortak's voice was respectful, but he could not hide the hint of admiration. Zarnak shot him a glare. This human's victory cannot be real. There must be some trick, some kind of deception. His voice was laced with frustration, but Vortak's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the general's anger. Vortak shook his head. No, General. It is clear that Private Turner is a remarkable fighter. We must reconsider our views on humanity. His words were measured and logical, and they struck a chord with the soldiers around him. Jack, sensing the shift in the arena, took a moment to catch his breath. He glanced around at the alien soldiers, who now regarded him with respect. The transformation in their attitude was striking. The mocking laughter that had once filled the arena had been replaced by a respectful silence. The general, still struggling with his own emotions, finally spoke. "Private Turner," he said, his voice begrudging but sincere, "you have proven yourself to be a capable and skilled warrior. I was wrong to underestimate you." Jack met the general's gaze steadily. "Thank you, General. I did what I had to do." His voice was calm but firm. He had earned his place through hard work and determination, and he was proud of what he had achieved. Zarnak's words were a significant shift from his earlier dismissive attitude. It was clear that he was struggling to accept the reality of Jack's abilities. The general's pride had been wounded, but his respect for the human soldier was undeniable. The alien soldiers watching the exchange began to applaud. Their respect for Jack was now evident in their gestures and expressions. They had seen the human fight with skill and determination, and their attitudes had changed accordingly. As the applause grew louder, Zarnak stepped down from his platform and approached Jack. "I must admit," the general said, his tone more measured, "that your performance today has changed my view of humans. I was wrong to doubt you." Jack nodded, acknowledging the general's words. "I appreciate that, General. We all have the capacity to surprise others, and I hope this has shown you what humanity is truly capable of." The general's acknowledgement was a pivotal moment, not just for Jack, but for the entire understanding between the two species. The respect earned by Jack was a significant step towards bridging the gap between humans and aliens. As Jack left the arena, he was met with cheers and congratulations from the alien soldiers. The respect he had earned was not just a victory for him, but a victory for humanity as a whole. The general's change of heart was a testament to the power of skill, determination, and the ability to challenge prejudices. In the end, Jack's journey from being mocked to earning respect highlighted a powerful message, that true strength comes from within, and it can overcome even the most entrenched biases. The respect he had earned was not just for his combat skills, but for his courage and ability to stand tall in the face of adversity. The story concluded with Jack's triumph and the general's reluctant acknowledgement of humanity's strength, setting the stage for a new era of understanding and respect between the two species.